The judge told a little bit about how Penn State actually recruited.
Yeah, by the way, Judge, never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
This doesn't shock this crowd, by the way. Well, but part of that was that the recruitment process? Did they actually see tapes of you as a football player?
Well, I owe a lot of it to my coach back then, which was Tom Sharp. I got turned down by a lot of people, Ohio State, Pitt, a lot of people were recruiting, and he kept working at it. Finally got a tape. They said, okay, we'll come. We didn't see him play football, and Tom Bradley came in a snowstorm, which that part was true, Steve. And he did see me play basketball. However, it was like I think that was my senior year. I was averaging like 23, 25 points a game. I had 3 points that game, but I fouled out in the third quarter, so it was. So I think they like that. But yeah, and I was so upset because I really didn't play that well, but in the next week they offered. So
did you did they explain that they were looking at for other things? Obviously,
they just wanted to see, obviously my athletic ability and I guess aggressiveness. I don't know.
Well, if you fouled out by the beginning of the third quarter, good job.
Right.
I read an article when we were at Penn State that you said that you used to be aggressive. In fact, probably the term would be dirty when you played. Is that correct?
Yeah, I look back college years, I'm like, wow, I can't imagine. The stuff I used to do was really bad. And, but, a lot of penalties, nothing, at the bottom of the pile. And then I remember my rookie year tried to do that stuff. You can't because you see these teams twice a year, mostly, especially in our division, so you can't do that. So I kind of cut it out. But yeah, I just look back at some of those dumb things I did. Just, hitting kickers for no reason, I was just dumb. But it was fun at the time.
I don't know who told me, and it may have been your good friend up there from Frewburg, Cass, who said that there was a time where you did go after kickers, and it was sort of a game.
Well, yeah, it was more of a punter than a kicker. We just, after they would punt the ball, we'd just kind of circle around, they'd be jogging down and just boom, just kind of wipe them out. That's what I'm talking about, stuff like that. I remember running down on kickoffs, the ball would be kicked in the end zone, and the guy's back would be turned, because they know it, and I just run him over too. So, got a lot of penalties, frustrated Joe Paterno quite often, but we made it through, thank God. I grew up a little bit then.
Well, at one point, you did meet, for the first time, the legend Joe Paterno. Obviously, he had a reputation. What was that like?
Well, it's like, for me back then, he's still the man he was, but it's so iconic. You just see the guy and like, wow, this is the guy that you see on TV. And then you talk to him, it's like you still just are looking at him like, wow, this is really Joe Paterno. So I think, and then once you got to play for him, you hated him. He was especially young. He kicked me off practice fields religiously my first year. And I thought, he doesn't like me, he doesn't. Then the next year, I redshirted that year, and then the next year, at the end of the year, I started. So that was all good. So, but now you understand why he did some of the things he did. He's more than just a coach. He is a teacher of life. He's like a father figure. So he always had a reason for the stuff he did, and obviously I know that now. Well, and we're good friends now. And I think those the players that don't get to realize what he's trying to do end up, just hating him throughout his life. But those that do get him, love him to death. And I think he's got a lot of fans out there because of it. You
were there during obviously you had great success there. Lettered all 4 years.
Right. And
undefeated national championship.
Twice. I really wasn't on the first one, but I was redshirted that first year when we beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, and I was there though. We helped them practice, and then my senior year we won against Miami.
Talk about that Miami game, because we got some Penn State folks here. Some serious Penn State folks, and so they certainly know of your extensive career. But that That was quite a highlight game, that championship game, because I think you got the ball a couple of
Yeah, well, that game was, to me, somebody asked me earlier what my highlight of my career. You know, I would say that game in particular because, first of all, the way it came down, it was like good against evil. Back then, Miami was with Jimmy Johnson, and they dressed in fatigues, and the whole thing was, and we were the good, clean-cut guys. So I think that's the way it started out, and then just that team was an awesome team. We were just very, very lucky that Vinny Testaverde threw 6 interceptions. Otherwise, that team is a tough team. But we were able to get them, and I got 2. I think a couple of the linebackers had 2, so it's a big win for us.
You're underplaying one of the pivotal plays of the game, which actually led up to Dozier's final touchdown. Let's talk about that.
Oh, yeah, it's funny you should bring that up. My brother, who had just left, Kevin, the first thing, I remember after the game, he's out in the park, they all came to the game, he said, the first thing out of his mouth is, why didn't you score? He said, you just jumped and fell. And I was like, yeah, you're right, I should have, I kind of jumped over this guy, and if I took another step, I probably would have scored. But yeah, it was just, I guess I read it, it's so long ago. I read it and jumped and ran it.
Game's over. What's the locker room like? And you're
great.
national champions, and you're part of that, pivotal part.
Yeah, it was great. I just remember I had to get up the next day to go to the Today Show. It was Joe and I, so we were up until 5 o'clock in the morning. And then I jump in a limo with Joe, and then that next day I had to go to Japan for the Japan Bowl, which was like miserable. And we were all in coach, and I had a leg brace on because I hurt my knee at the end of that game, and miserable. But that night was great. We were all stealing, I remember this, you're stealing beer out of Joe Paterno's suite because he was in the back suite and open we go. So we were old enough. We were 22 back then. So it was a great time.
What's Jerry Sandusky mean to you?
He's obviously the reason that linebacker U name came out is because of him. He's just a great teacher of same thing of men as far as through life, and then obviously his football credentials speak for itself. I mean, he can take what he likes to do is take good athletes and make them linebackers, and that's what he did with me.
When I think of Shane Conlan, Penn State, I think of bubble defense.
Yeah.
What was that?
That was like the greatest defense ever because I never got touched. So, I don't know. Jerry just came up with it when he said, "Let's put the 2 inside linebackers there, and we'll put the defensive end out on your spot, and you come in 2 yards behind them. So it's like a shorter free safety." And I said, "Well, what do you want me to do?" He said, "Go tackle the guy with the ball." And I said, it was great. So I wish we would have ran it more actually, but it was fun. They put it in for that. I think it started the Oklahoma. A lot of people don't know, we played for the national championship the year before we won against Oklahoma, and we were unable, I think defensively we shut that kid down, Jamal Holloway, remember that name? Like to -6 yards rushing. Our quarterback had a tough day that day. So, but other than that, we could have been 2-time national championships. Yeah.
You know, I look at, again, the statistics, and I think during that particular year, the '86 national championship, you had led the team with 79 tackles, including 63 solo tackles. That's an amazing statistic. Is that, do you think, because of that bubble defense? Is that?
No, actually, he put that in for just the bowl game, and then we did it that next year a few times. And then I just remember this picture, like this guy right here, Trey Bauer, who's one of my locker mates, a good friend of mine. He hated it because he was just, "I'm just giving myself up for you." I said, "That's right." It was beautiful. They absolutely hated it. So we didn't do it a whole lot the next year until we did it in the Miami game also.
Yeah. You had a chance to leave your junior year to possibly put yourself into the draft.
Right.
What was the decision behind all that?
It really wasn't. Just like with the baseball thing, my dad said, "You're staying or you're going," and that's what I did, basically. So they checked my junior year, Joe, they put some feeders. They said, maybe end of the first round, second round. And, and I said, "Dad, what do you think?" He said, "You're staying in school." So that really wasn't much of a, same thing with baseball. I said, "What do you think?" He said, "Nah, you got this education paid for, you're going to school." So it worked out.
Bill linebacker Shane Conlan on hand today. As part of the event, he signed a number of items, including a jersey for the Chautauqua Sports Hall of Fame.